Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Schrosch here, coach of the Munich Munchlaxes, and yes, I actually revived this channel right now. Let's see for how long. It's been in coma for a while, but I somehow pulled it out. Um, yeah, and today I'm bringing you a new draft analysis of the WPF Steer Season 11, and yeah, I've been in WPF for 2 seasons. So I first was also in Steel in Season 9, and I made runner-up. Like, I got second place, I lost finals. Was kind of a... Yeah, the game was a little bit unfortunate, a lot of 30% chances that went in my opponent's way. But then again, I kind of expected him to bring a super offensive team, and because I didn't have switch-ins to his stuff, he didn't have switch-ins to my stuff really, and yeah, somehow he still brought a defensive team, and I lost that game. And then I joined in season 10 for Rock Division, which also is a side division, and that one was Gen 5 League, and I had like a Kieran Black, Terrakion, Zapdos team. Those three basically were my main offense. But even though I'm not that good with defensive playstyles, I had a bunch of defensive stuff like Claydol as a spinner and rocker, and as well as Empoleon as a rocker, and Jellicent as a spin blocker and stuff. Pokewater, taking pressure off of Empoleon. And yeah, I actually managed to make finals again, and I got super close. I played that game super well, and yeah, then my opponent had Ditto transformed into my Tangela, and I was in with my Terrakion, and it was actually in close combat range, but my dumbass cocked for... I put Tangela in the cork, even changed the EVs to my the HP to my HP, but forgot to put Violet off, so I went for the Stone Edge crit, and I missed, and then I only made second again. So that's the third time in WPF I made run up twice. This time I'm going for the title. I'm just saying that right now. And yeah, so I'm back again in low tier, like season 9. Even season 9 was already like a lower tier than the usual low tier, like there was 18 pointers with like Charizard, Caparaja, Flapple, Galate, Orbital, Rotok Frost, Cypher, Tangela. And this season it's even lower, it's like 4 points and below. Like season 9 was, I think, 7 points and below. And yeah, this is really low tier, with also called Shittermons in the server by some people. And there was like the best mons on the board. The 18 pointers are Basculin, Executor Alola, Guslord, McMurder, Ninetales Alola, and Weezing. So those being the best mons those being the best mons is also already like, this is super low tier. So we have a lot of Violet users, a lot of NFE mons, and yeah, pretty actually a cool format, like mons you won't usually see really often. And yeah, I was like 8th or 9th, I think I was 9th pick, which isn't the greatest. It's out of 16 people, it's tied with 8 for the farthest away from both wheels. Like super in the middle, you always have like 16 or more picks between you and your next pick. And kind of prefer 8 a little bit more because it's an early mid pick, but they're both kind of equally meh. So a lot of stuff already went before my turn. And there's a few things in low tier that are really good and spammable, and yeah, that comes from a lot of NFE mounts that rely on the Vilight, and you still have boots and lefties, rocky helmets. So knockoff is really good in low tier, as are fighting types. Fighting types are really good. There's a lot of good fighting types. And flyings. And the knock on fighting types really kind of gave me the reason why I went for my first pick. And my first pick is going to be Granville. This gives me an Intimidate Mon and a Bulky Fairy, which can also be offensive, like this 120 attack stat is really good. And yeah, it gives me a lot of utility as well. It has like Super Fang Heal, will book up Taunt, Toxic, T-Wave, really good stuff. Solid coverage, and Play Rough is super spammable. Not 100% accurate, it means I will miss a lot probably. But yeah. Also, I drew my Mons in this season. I drew them because kinda we had this conversation where it was like people sending gifts are boring and stuff because it's always the same gifts, and it just makes the draft channel like you have a million messages and there are always big images and you have to scroll through them. But then it was like between if it's cool to send gifts or if it's boring and it's always the same gifts, and so I said, yeah, we would take a lot of personality into the draft if we just drew our Mons ourselves. And so I did, and I kinda and I also nicknamed my Pokemon after the people that drafted me in fantasy. It's like fantasy sports, and you basically draft coaches in the league and play them, and if they win you get points and stuff. Yeah, and the people who drafted me I named my Mons after. And Fantasy Night I drew the Granville after draft because I started mid-draft drawing, and then I thought, yeah, let me just draw them all. And I gave them, some of them are some personalities with the coaches. Like a real knight needs a sword, and so I made the Granville because it's a dog like Sashia and kind of like that. Yeah, so that's my pick number 1. Second off, I wanted some speed. I wanted a pivot. I wanted a knockoff user. Priority is also nice, so I went with Raichu. So we have Pumpkin, the Raichu. Nice little pumpkin right there, that's the head. And yeah, this Mon gives me it can run physical or special because it has even attacking stats. And it's one of the best electrics in low tier, if not the best. And yeah, it gives me... It has some great coverage in Surf, Grass Knot, Focus Blast, Knockoff, Play Rough, Extreme Speed. And even can run T-Bolt, Discharge, Volt Tackle, Volt Switch as it stabs. It has Nasty Plot to set up, it has Nuzzle, Encore, Dual Screens, even Wish for utility. So that's always nice to have. It's not the best Wish user because it has low HP, but I usually don't care about Wish in general too much in draft. I think it's kind of overrated, and people say like it's needed, but I don't think it's always worth it going for a mid-ish wish passer, just to have one, because I rarely even use wish, even if I drafted, and yeah, that's probably mainly because I play hyper offense to bulky offense, usually maybe sometimes balance, but yeah, on those teams I don't think wish is too important, and people kinda make it seem like if you don't have wish, your draft is bad. Doesn't mean you shouldn't draft wish. Some teams really appreciate it, but I never see me use wish too much. Anyway, my next Mon gives me some nice vote turn core with Raichu. It's a really strong hitter on the physical side. It's a fighting type, and it's Primeape. Primeape I used 2 seasons ago, and it was one of my 3 mons that got more than 10 kills, alongside Dodrio and No Drizzle Politoed. Yeah, those 3 absolutely carried the season. And yeah, so here goes Andy the Primeape, Andy Dragons of Smite, Joe the Journeys. I decided for Andy because I personally call you Andy, and you said you would leave it up to me. So this mon has stab options. Main options are close combat and maybe sometimes reversal. I just put it here. Usually I will probably run close combat. It has some great coverage in U-turn, Earthquake, Fire, Elemental Punches, Stone Edge, Gunk Shot, Throat Chop, Seed Bomb. Has setup with Poke Up, has Taunt as a somewhat fast Taunter. It's a great Scarf as well. And it can even surprise something with Final Gambit to remove something to free up something else on my team. From my experience, whenever Final Gambit removes something I need to be gone, it's usually so Primeape can do more work, but maybe I have a matchup where I can bring it to remove it for something else. Yeah. So my next pick is going to be Gabite, Orange the Gabite. Yeah, I think for 7 points that's a really good pick. And Rough Skin is always nice. Violet, tanking stuff. Can run offensive as well. Unfortunately, it doesn't have everything Garchomp gets. Like, it doesn't have Sword Stance, and it doesn't have Fire Fang. And yeah, those basically I think the main 2 it doesn't get. But other than that, it's just a low tier Garchomp. And yeah, I think for 7 points that's a great pick. I needed a ground type, and dragons are also pretty good in low tier because there's a lack of fairies. Not everyone will have a fairy. And yeah, I think that's a pretty good pick. I can run like, when did I add Home Claws? I could add that here. I guess it's not Sword Stance, but it's the next best thing. Yeah, so that's Gabite. Then it also gives me a Rocker, which is always needed for prep or for using them. Then next up, I wanted 2 things. I wanted a Bulky Water, but I also wanted a Shell Smash mount because Shell Smash is just kind of broken in low tier. Nothing really wants to take on any Shell Smash. Like, no one is happy if they see a Shell Smash mount in prep, especially in low tier. So I went with War Turtle, the Scorpion. 10 points. yeah, Rain Dash is probably, I won't run this because weather abilities are banned, weather inducing abilities. Unless I run like manual Rain Dance, but I don't think that's really worth it just for Water Hurdle. Torrent is usually just a bit more useful. It can run Scald on defensive or Surf or Hydro Pump on Chase Mesh sets. It can run physical, like it's pretty even in attacking stats. Waterfall, Water Spout if I want to. Flip Turn is a great utility move, and it has Aqua Jet if it wants to. I guess. I don't see myself running much Aqua Jet, but yeah, maybe I will. Coverage, Ice Beam, Aura Spheres, and Headbutt, Rock Slide. It doesn't get Dark Pulse, unfortunately, but other than that, it gets pretty much everything Blastoise gets. And most importantly, it gives me a spinner, Shell Smasher, like I said, Toxic Haze, and it has both Counter and Mirror Code, so those are always options. So going on, it was a mon I dropped. I drafted Mach next in the draft, but later on I dropped it for a mon that just fits better because I drafted another poison type later on. I think it's always important to at least have a grounded poison type on your roster because that means T-Spikes are not free against you. But I drafted another poison type later on in the draft, spoiler, and traded it away for Garfitter, Gradual to Garfitter. Obviously Shadow Tag is banned, and it has Frisk and Competitive. Stab moves, Psychic Psyshock, Stored Power Future Sight are all really good moves. It has Energy Ball, T-Bolt, Dark Pulse, Shadow Ball, Foul Play as main coverage moves, Nasty Plot and Calm Mind. I think does it get Cosmic Power? I don't think it gets Cosmic Power. I would have written it down, I think. Nasty Plot, Toxic T-Wave, always nice to have. Taunt, not the fastest taunter, but slow taunt can still be nice. Trick if I want to run a Scarf set or something like that. Trick Room if I want to enable something else. Heal Bell and Dual Screens are always nice to have. Not the fastest user of those, but it can Frisk, which is actually kind of nice to scout for sets in Draft League, and as well as competitive, like it can switch, like if I get intimidated, if I get defogged on, I get a special attack boost. Same with Primeape getting an attack boost through Anger Point, not through Anger Point, through Defiant. And that also can, Vital Spirit is also kind of nice against sleep spamming mons. Anger Point is not too useful usually. But yeah, that's basically Garfitter for you. And next up, I went with the Muscat. Who would have guessed? It's great in low tier. It's still pretty good in regular, or pretty solid in regular format. I drafted the Goat Munchlax. Basically drew my logo here. Yeah, this boy is back. It's the mon I drafted the most, not the mon I brought to most games, that's maybe Gyarados. But yeah, that's the mon I drafted the most, and it's also my top 10 kill leaders, which is kind of funny. So yeah, basically most things it does is like Curse, Rest, Body Slam and the coverage move, maybe Sleep Talk if it's free. Can run Facade, Double Edge, Self-Destruct, and as coverage moves it has like Earthquake, Gunk Shot, Seed Bomb, Elemental Punches, Rock Slide, Bite. Unfortunately Bite, because they because Game Freak refuses to give Munchlax Crunch or Darkest Lariat. Snorlax gets both of them. Munchlax, for some reason, is stuck with Bite. Yeah, Brick Break, Superpower, and then Headbutt are all pretty nice coverage moves. It has some utility. Encore, Whirlwind, and Whirlpool are the ones that come to mind. And yeah, it can be really annoying with this stuff. Always happy to have him on the team. So next up, I wanted this flying type because flyings are also really good in the format. And I went with 2 Kernel, which was only 5 points, which I believe is an absolute steal. Yeah, it has Keen Eye, Skill Link, Sheer Force, two pretty good abilities in Skill Link and Sheer Force, since it does have access to Fury Attack for Skill Link, as well as Bullet Seed and Rock Blast. Yeah, it has Boom Burst, which is also always nice for mixed set or even special. Unfortunately, it doesn't get Hurricane, so it's not as strong as a special attacker. It does have Brave Bird and its signature Beak Blast, which, if it gets hit by a contact move, as it uses Beak Blast, the opponent gets burned, which is always a pretty cool thing. Burns are always annoying status in general, and yeah, having that signature move, it's also 100 base power. Unfortunately, it has, I think, negative priority through the thing, but I could be wrong about that, so yeah, I'm not sure. I will check that out though before I use it. Overheat, Flame Charge, U-Turn and Knock Off, 2 great utility moves, Momentum and Knock. If it's like Choiced or Boots, U-Turn is great, Knock Off is always nice to have, especially in low tier. It gives me another it gives me a Defogger, it has Roost, it has Sword Stance, Tailwind, Toxic, some decent utility. But this is not going to be my utility bird because I drafted another bird, which is, I think this is probably more for my offensive capabilities, and my next one, Wallaby, is more for the defensive side. Yeah, it's just a cheap VJ Mandibus. It pretty much does the same thing, actually pretty well, and it's just yeah, it's actually a really good mon. Its abilities: big packs, overcoat, weak armor. Probably won't run weak armor too much. It gives me a speed boost, but it takes away my defensive utility. Like, it can hold a Violite, which makes it really bulky. But yeah, overcoat or big packs, depending on the matchup, is usually what I go for, because I just don't want to have my defense lowered unless I have a meme sweeping set with like Nasty Plot or something, which maybe if I meme or if it actually works in a matchup. Yeah, other than that, it's just a utility more. Knock-off, foul play. It does have payback, punishment stuff for like psychics. So I do annoy those setup stored power psychics a little bit with punishment. And if I want to run special, Dark Bolts, Air Slash, and obviously Brave Bird for physical. Also does get to Wing Beat if I don't want to take the recoil. U-Turn gives me a nice slow pivot. Its coverage is basically just Heat Wave, Steel Wing, Rock Tomb. I think it has like... yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And then it gives me a really good Defogger, Spruce, Taunt, Toxic, Whirlwind, Nasty Plot. Those are all... like, Nasty Plot is I will probably not run, but I just put it here because it has it. And yeah, there's some really good utility mon. And yeah, next up, I got my steel type because everyone needs a steel type, and I drafted Probopass. Yeah, this mon it allows me to trap steals or run sturdy, depending on the matchup. If I can actually trap a steal, that's always pretty good. Or I force some shed shells, which is also really nice if I can do that. As stab moves, it has Power Jam, Stone Edge, Rock Blast, Flash Cannon, Iron Head. It does have Thunderbolt and Volt Switch, as well as the element Punches, Earth Power, Dazzling Gleam for some reason, and Explosion. It gives me a rocker. The second one? Yeah, the second one next to Gebite. And yeah, it can Toxic stuff, T-Wave stuff, Taunt, Pain Split, and Magnet Rise to get rid of the 4 times ground weakness. And yeah. And last but not least, I drafted Rosalia. Like I said, I drafted another poison type later in the draft, which is Rosalia. Pretty bulky with a Bylight, still 100 special attack is nothing to scoff at. S-Stabs, Energy Ball, Giga Drain, Leaf Storm, Sludge Bomb, and maybe some Vanish Shock if I do T-Spikes stuff or Toxic stuff. As coverage, it has solid coverage given its only 3 moves. Dazzling Gleam, Extra Sensory, and Shadow Ball aren't bad moves, but it's not a lot of coverage. But where it really shines is the support stuff. Spikes, T-Spikes, Toxic Stuns for Sleep Powder, so it can really spread. It can stack hazards, it can status stuff, it can leech seed, synthesis be annoying, aromatherapy, and with natural cure I can just rest up, switch out, and be awake again. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so mainly specially defensive on this side. Rosalia as a grass type is usually like it's a grass type that doesn't resist ground, so but then again there's no Zygarde in this tier, and I do have some immunities, 2 immunities, 2 birds and 2 cannon and Wallaby, so I'm not too worried about it. But it does check Pokeballers pretty well, like it eats those scalds. It can tank some ice beams as well because of the Violet and its poke. And if it gets scald burned, it can just switch out and it's not burned anymore. So it doesn't really care too much about that. So that's the team. Let me know in the comments if you like it or not, if you think it will do well. And yeah, also tell me if you like my art, and if so, which Pokemon do you like the most that I drew. And also for the layout, if you want me to keep using the Pokemon home sprites, or if I should use this art in the layout, like here where the Wallaby is, see, if you want me to put this Wallaby, this one right here, or the actual home sprite. So yeah, thank you for watching. Yeah, obviously, always only will do that for my own team, not for the opponent, because I'm not drawing 11 months every week. I did that for my team, but yeah, just it was for fun and for the draft itself and for the draft analysis for this video actually. So thank you guys for watching and stay tuned for the season itself. Goodbye.